So between Tuesday's show and today's show, obviously a lot of free agency news has happened. On Tuesday's show, I went through and I named a bunch of key free agents and talked a little bit about each one of them. Maybe I'll upload that video separately to get like a gigantic free agency recap. But I did want to go through today and talk about some of the major signings that happened in the last couple of days in day 2, day 3 of the free agency signing period. Talk a little bit about them, and there were a lot of signings that happened. A lot more than it seems like are usual for the NFL. It seems like a lot of people are trading places this offseason, and we'll get into all of that today. I basically scrolled down from the bottom and started my way up from there. So, Emmanuel Sanders, 1 year, $6 million with Buffalo. He's basically replacing John Brown, but at a little bit of a cheaper price. John Brown actually signed a 1 year, $3.5 million deal with the Raiders, I believe. Somebody can fact check me on that. I don't think I have his name down on this list, but Emmanuel Sanders replacing John Brown in Buffalo. He's going to be a reliable weapon for Josh Allen. They're going to add to the offense a little bit more. Good signing. Tyus Bowser, 4 year, $22 million contract extension with Baltimore. Good for Baltimore with the loss of Matt Judon. You're going to need to pay Bowser a little bit more. He's now going to be your main linebacker on the team. You're going to probably want to address that need in the draft. I mean, Judon wasn't the most amazing player in the world, but he was definitely a core piece of that Baltimore's defense. So you're going to need to probably address that need in the draft. But paying Tyus Bowser a nice bit of contract money after his rookie contract. So this is his first big payday as a professional in the NFL. Good for Bowser. Good for Baltimore to keep him and keep the nucleus of that Baltimore defense there. Shaquille Griffin, 3 years, $40 million signing with the Jaguars. This is a great pickup for Jacksonville. I like this move a lot. The Jaguars have really solidified their cornerback room with Sidney Jones re-signing, and Griffin signing on Wednesday. One of the biggest problems with Jacksonville last year was their defensive backcourt was absolutely ravaged by injuries and inconsistent play. So with C.J. Henderson, he is going to be coming back after his rookie season. He's hopefully going to be playing a little bit better. Sidney Jones re-signed. Now you have Shaquille Griffin to line up on the other side. Trey Herndon, I believe, is coming back as well. So you've really solidified your defensive backcourt in Jacksonville. Really good negotiating and really good decision-making from the Jaguars there. Trent Williams, right tackle for the San Francisco 49ers. Massive 6 years, $138 million contract, $40 million guaranteed. I'm not sure how many years are voidable in this contract. It didn't necessarily say when I went digging how many years are voidable, but he only gets $8 million his first season. This is going to be a manageable contract for the 49ers. It's not as big and bad as everybody think it is. I don't know if this makes him the most expensive tackle in terms of pure money amount in the NFL, but surely it's close at $138 million. So good signing for 49ers. They're really solidifying their offensive line. They did have another offensive lineman sign in Alex Mack rather. So we'll get to that later. Malcolm Smith, 1 year deal with the Browns. He hasn't really found a good home since his days in Seattle. He's played for the Raiders a little bit. I know he played for the Raiders. I can't remember who else he played for. But he's going to have a 1 year deal with Cleveland. Again, one of the major problems with Cleveland last year, and this was really shown in the AFC divisional round against the Kansas City Chiefs. Their speed at the linebacker core was not that great. Malcolm Smith is he's older, but he's a faster linebacker, very sideline to sideline. Good pickup for Cleveland. He's going to be a good mentor for that young linebacker core that comes in. Jordan Lewis resigning with Dallas, 3 years, $13.5 million. Good for Dallas to retain one of their free agent defensive backs. They'll probably still need to address that in the draft since they have so many defensive backs that, that are free agents or were released. Chidobe Awuzie signed with the Bengals. We talked about that on Tuesday, and that was a key piece for the Cowboys last season. So Jordan Lewis, I guess, was the person who took Awuzie's money and stayed with the Cowboys. The Cowboys are still going to have to address that in the draft. Kyle Van Noy returning to New England, 2 years, $12 million. Good signing for New England. You can imagine after his exit from Miami that he is hungry, and he will play hard for Belichick this season. I still feel really bad for Kyle Van Noy. I really disagreed with the Dolphins letting him go. So I'm sure he is ready to head back down to Miami and knock some people on their butts. Rodney Hudson traded to Arizona for a couple of picks. Cardinals are making a lot of moves. Going to try and shore up the offensive line, make sure Kyler Murray isn't running for his life back there. Alec Mack signs a 3-year deal with San Francisco. We mentioned that a little bit earlier. Shores up the offensive line for San Francisco. Mack was probably the best player on a little shaky Atlanta offensive line. So he's going to do a fine job under center or as the center for, I'm assuming it's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo. Good signing for San Francisco again, really making sure that offensive line remains consistent. Hassan Reddick gets a one-year deal with Carolina, adds some help to a Carolina front seven, adds some depth and an opposing piece to Brian Burns, who had what should have been a Pro Bowl season last year. Curtis Samuel, 3-year, $34.5 million deal to Washington. Now, this is a great move. Somebody has suggested on the Washington front office frenzy segment, especially since Robinson got tagged, Godwin got tagged, Galladay is close to a deal, Marvin Jones Jr. has already been signed. Curtis Samuel is probably one of the best wide receivers that was still available in this free agency period. Great pickup for Washington, whoever's going to be the quarterback at this point. It seems like it's going to be Fitzpatrick or Heineke, depending on whether or not Washington gets a quarterback in the first round of the NFL draft. We talked about that ad nauseum on the show already, so I'm going to ignore that for now. But Curtis Samuel is going to be a really good person to throw to. Great signing by Washington there. Gabe Jackson traded to Seattle from Las Vegas. Russell Wilson finally getting his wish and getting some pass protection. A very good guard. Injuries have plagued Jackson for the last couple of seasons, but he came back last year and was able to have an above-average season. So Raiders moving on from his contract. Seattle's picking up a pretty heavy contract, but if it's going to protect Russell Wilson and keep Russell Wilson happy and finally end the saga with the Russell Wilson trade drama, that's good enough for Seattle. So good signing there. Patrick Peterson signs with the Vikings, another team like the Jaguars that desperately needed a cornerback. Peterson will be a great mentor to Cameron Dantzler, third-round pick last year for the Vikings, who had a really good season when he wasn't injured. I really like that signing for the Vikings. AJ Green going to Arizona, good number 2 option across from DeAndre Hopkins. That Arizona offense is going to be really, really scary, especially if they get a really nice tight end there. Kenyon Drake signed with the Las Vegas Raiders on a 2-year deal, which is actually the next person I was going to talk about. So Kenyon Drake isn't going to be there anymore, but that offense in terms of passing is going to be really, really nice. Speaking of Kenyon Drake, again, goes to Las Vegas on a 2-year deal. Not sure about this move particularly. You already have Josh Jacobs in the backfield. It does give you a 1-2 punch at running back, but you could have easily found somebody in the draft at a cheaper price and gotten him for longer. So I don't necessarily understand that signing from Las Vegas's perspective. I don't know how well Kenyon Drake performed last year. I think he had a pretty good season last year, so I don't necessarily know what this means for Josh Jacobs and the Raiders at the running back position. Maybe they're going to go for a dual running back attack, kind of like Ronnie Brown, Ricky Williams back in the Miami days. So Kyle Rudolph signs a 2-year deal with the Giants, another one I predicted on the front office frenzy segment, so we're doing numbers today, boys. More indication of the get Evan Ingram off my football team movement that I have started for myself. Obviously, I'm not a Giants fan, but I'm assuming that Giants fans would be more than happy to see Evan Ingram gone. Kyle Rudolph is a very reliable tight end. He has been a reliable tight end for 10 plus years now in the NFL. Great signing by the Giants. Jared Cook, speaking of tight ends, signs a 1-year deal with the Charger, replaces Hunter Henry, who signed with the Patriots earlier. Jacoby Brissett signs a 1-year deal with the Dolphins. Again, Miami probably has one of the best backups in the league now. Looks like Flores is going to move forward with the interchangeable QB plan. If Tua is struggling, just plug in Brissett and keep the offense going, provide a spark for the team. It looks like he's going to stick to that game plan, although Tua is probably going to have a better season. He might not need it. Mitchell Trubisky signing with the Bills. We talked about that a little bit already, but to summarize, Mitchell Trubisky is there for a confidence reset. He's there to learn. He's there to not have to be the number 1 guy for a little while. And the last thing that I found to be a big name was Miami signing Will Fuller to a 1-year deal. He wouldn't have been my first choice if I'm Miami as a wideout. I think they still addressed wide receiver in the draft, but if Fuller stays healthy, then this is a good signing, a good weapon for Tua. And that is essentially my day 2 / day 3, / day 4 recap in terms of NFL free agency. I might post the first one as well. We'll see. But that is basically every major signing or every important signing I thought that I saw in terms of transactions with the NFL in free agency over the last couple of days. Which signing stuck out to you? Which signing do you think was most important? Let me know. I'm very interested to see what you think and if I missed something that you think I overlooked. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this segment from the Hard Headed Sports Podcast. You've heard what I've had to say, now I'm interested to hear what you think as well. If you enjoyed this highlight from the show and want to watch more highlights from the show as they come out after the show's completion, you should definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you're interested in listening to the entire show in its full-length entirety, you should follow the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all very soon.